Hello, and welcome back to Pushing Technology to the Limit. Today I want to talk to you about basic network troubleshooting. Why am I going through this? Because you folks need it. I have talked to a bunch of people this week that are using wireless for their internet on their router. Now the equipment ranges from whatever brand they've got in a home router. But the one thing that folks don't understand is running everything wireless is highly overrated. And not to have no wired connections at all, that's bad, folks. Now, with these folks that I've been talking to that have told me that they've had bad internet, I've given them several troubleshooting tips to troubleshoot it themselves before calling their ISP. Now I'm going to be relating to that ISP, and that means Internet Service Provider. So I got a demo back here, and it's not working because I'm just trying to show you the back of the equipment and what you're supposed to do. But it's a typical setup of your house. And one thing that I'm going to talk about is your wireless connection. So there's several different kind of routers that you can get out there. Or wireless access points. And that is AP. If you ever see that on the internet, that means access point. Access points are not routers. They're basically just giving you an access to the Wi-Fi. Now, if you have a lot of devices at home, like a tablet, smartphone, gaming console, smart TV, and let's just say a few computers, like a computer for each family member in the house. So if you got, two kids, and they're old enough to have their own computer or smartphone or what have you, you're sending that all through the router. Now, some of you don't realize that home equipment is very limited, and for that fact, it causes problems. And if you got more than 4 devices, either you're going to have to take them offline by shutting them down, or and then limited it down to back to 4 devices, whether it's wired or wireless. Now, I highly recommend wired for the fact that this is a better connection. Yes, it's a wire, and that's not modern, but it's the best technology out there compared to wireless. So my troubleshooting tips are going to be as simple as just unplug or shut off your equipment, for starters. Now, a lot of problems happen within the house. When your internet starts going slow, it's not the ISP. And I'll repeat myself again, that stands for Internet Service Provider. So what I do now as a practice, when my internet is going slow, I'm right on troubleshooting my network, trying to figure out who's causing what problem. And if you watched my videos in the past, you know my setup is not simple like most of you folks are. But don't worry, if you have more than 4 devices on your network, there's an answer to that too. You have to use business equipment. Not all of it, just a router. You don't have to have business switches. And they're not any more expensive. I mean, yes, they're a little bit more expensive, but they're better off if you got, more than 4. Even if you have 5, that's way too many. So I got a little demo back here that I've got set up, and I'm going to show you just a quick step of how to troubleshoot your internet. Step 1 is to shut everything off. So, and I'm not talking, you might want to, and I've done this too, I have rebooted my modem and router. Now, some people now only have a modem. I don't recommend that, for the fact that a modem is meant for just internet. I mean, yeah, they overrate those modems again with the router capability, which is not true. That should not be used as your main source of networking. You should at least have one router, wired or wireless or both. So let me show you my setup that I've got back here. Yes, the router is a little bit more advanced because it's a business router, but it's just a demo. So let me get to that now, and I'll show you how to do your troubleshooting on your own. So right here is your typical setup at home. A wireless laptop. There's absolutely nothing connected to it. It's battery. It also has a power supply, so you can run around the house with it wirelessly. On the right hand side is the router, or modem in some people's cases, but mine is a router. Now, a lot of the new routers that are coming out look like this. They're just a box, and they're wireless, and there's no antennas on it except inside that case, which is a poor idea to even think about. Now I'll show you my wireless access point when I'm done here. So what I would do is, if you're wireless right now like this, I mean, the closer the better, always. But the other thing that you should do is plug in a cable. Now on your router, there's always, or your modem, there's always connections, whether it's a DSL modem, a cable modem, whether you've got satellite modems, there's always connections for Ethernet. Typically. I mean, I haven't seen any of the Wi-Fi setups. Whether, I mean, I do have one, but I'm not getting into that on this video. But on the back of your router here, I'll show you. So the red cable is my WAN port, and the rest of the ports are your PC ports. And all you need to do is plug your computer, wherever that may be, PC or Mac, into one of those ports, and then turn on your computer. So just take this is a standard Ethernet cable, plug it into your laptop or desktop, and start doing a test. Now as you can see, the Ethernet cable is plugged in. So I got one connected to the laptop here, and I've got the LAN port connected on my router. So there's two cables now, or there's three. There's the power cable, the two Ethernet cables, and you're all set. So what I would do now is turn on your laptop. Like I've said, this is a demo, so it's not powered up or anything like that. But when you get on there, shut down your wireless connection so that the router is not connecting wirelessly to anything on your end. Well, there are switches, and I can't show you which one depending on the brand of router or modem that you have. You can shut off the wireless broadcast on all these new routers now. The older ones that I've had, you couldn't do it. You just had to disconnect your wireless card by just shutting it off. But now, since you're all set up, just reboot your your modem or your modem slash router. But if you have a router, reboot your modem first, then wait for all the lights to come on. Your Ethernet light won't come on until you plug your router back in the wall. And so wait to 1 to 2 minutes for both. I don't really even wait for the 2 minutes, because it usually by a minute all the status lights are lit. So then you just run a speed test. I think it's just type in speed test. I think it's like either speedtest.net or speedtest.com. Go to speedtest.net and then just do an internet speed test. Make sure that your what you're getting as far as your internet's concerned, whether it's 3 megabits down or it's 7 down, or whatever your cable company is providing you. You gotta find out from them, or the speed test will tell you what you're getting, and then you can tell through that. If you're 7, then you're getting it, but you need to be able to figure out if your internet is giving you problems or not, or your router or your modem. Now, there's no way to really troubleshoot your modem unless you get another one. Sometimes your modem could be having a problem, your router could be having a problem. It's all typical of computer equipment, whether it's networking, a PC, a Macintosh, whether you've got a tablet. Everything seems to have issues at times, whether you need to replace it or you need to figure out what's going on. The other thing that you should be thinking about is if you do have more than one device, and like many of us these days do, is to use QoS. QoS stands for Quality of Service. And I'll explain that simply. Now, each setup is different in everybody's router or modem router. So I cannot just go in and say, hey, this is how you do it here, here, and here. No. So QoS stands for Quality of Service. Basically, if you set like PC 1 or computer 1, I use computer because some of you are using gaming consoles, smart TVs. It could be anything that's a computer. So if I set my computer 1 at, well, I'll just give it what I'm giving it right now. I gave my computer 6 megabytes down and 1 meg up. Now, I can set all of my computers to be at that speed, so that whether it's my tablet, well, I don't have a gaming console, but for those that have gaming consoles, smart TVs, you can only get 6 megabytes down and 1 up. What does that do for you, you ask? So what that does is that with quality of service is that it keeps it maintained at 6. You cannot take any more than 6. So if you have, let's just say, like if I were to have a cable internet, I may not. They ran it down the road, but I hear from people that it's going to take forever to get it connected. So anyways, if I do the 100 megabyte package that they have, what I would do is reserve half of that. So I use 50 and I save 50. And why is that, you ask? Because if you're using half and you're only allowing your network to have 50 megabytes, then you got 50 in reserve for a backbone. And I won't get into all that technical detail. I'm trying to keep it simple for you folks, but I also want to give you other options here to think about. Well, basically, a backbone is like everything. It's the bone in your back. You can't do anything without it. Basically, that's what the internet has to be, too. So if you are there without QoS, and you've got your smart TV, your computers, phones, you name it, all taking 100% of your internet, you're going to bog it down. Especially those game console systems that I don't really understand too much about the newer ones, for the fact that I never owned an Xbox or one of those PlayStation systems that can connect to the internet. I don't know too much about them except that you can play with each other online with them. That's a lot of bandwidth right there, especially for wireless internet. And what I mean by wireless internet is that there's satellite internet is wireless, whether you got cell phone internet from your cell phone carrier. That's not all that technology they hype up and say, hey, this is better than you name it. I wouldn't trust those guys with a 10-foot pole. They hype up this stuff just to sell it. But when reality hits, the technology that they're using stinks. The only way that, and I know that wireless is the future, but in my way of looking at things and testing things out, it's not as good as just a stable, rock hard cable connection to your modem. And what I mean by cable, whether it's a telephone line or it's a coaxial cable to your cable company. So when you find out what's going on with your internet, now sometimes, and I've had this happen, that I've tested my equipment, I've gotten new equipment, and I'm still having the problem, then it's your internet service provider's problem. Because then you can go to them and say, look, I've tested my router, my modem, and my computer, and I'm still getting signal that is lower than what I'm paying for. I've had it happen where the internet was fast at this point, then the next time I did a test, it was, slow. It was, you could not just put your finger on it and say, look, it's this. But when I went out and replaced my router, my switch, because in my network I have a separate switch since I have more equipment, way more equipment than a typical home user. But, then I go out and get another modem, and when all that I've tested and I still get poor internet, then I know it's the company. So those are some troubleshooting tips for you to try to eliminate your problem before calling your internet service provider. I highly recommend that you do your troubleshooting, and then you must know what's going on with your network. Don't trust the phone company, whether it's a phone company or the cable company or whatever ISP you have, internet service provider. Because they're always going to blame that it's you, when sometimes in reality it's them. And I'm always going to be up on the front of things before I call them, so I know that, hey, my router's okay, my modem's okay, my computer's okay, it's you guys. Now come out and fix it. And they do. I don't have to sit there and troubleshoot stuff because I've already done it. And all I have to do is just sit back and wait for them to fix the internet for me. Now with some of you that are wireless, you're going to be, influenced by the weather. That's one thing that this person told me on Facebook as I was talking to her, is that every time the weather changes, the internet goes slower, and sometimes, when the weather gets better, it gets faster. So it's influenced by the weather. There's nothing that you can do about that. That's just a technology. So I hope this helps you to get a better grip on your internet problem. It might not even be a problem at all. It just may be too much stuff. I mean, that's a possibility. And you can go on the internet and look up small business routers. And I recommend TP-Link for the fact that I've used them for years. And I really don't know what the price was that they are now, but my TP-Link router that I bought that was a small business class was way underpriced compared to like Netgear and Cisco and any of the other brands that are out there, because they're just not a name brand TP-Link. So they're going to be on the cheaper end, and I don't mean cheap, but they're just low cost. But I've never had a problem with my router or the wireless access point. But before I forget, let me show you my wireless access point so you know what I'm talking about. So here's my wireless access point. It's a TP-Link wireless app, means access point. It has 3 antennas. It works great for wireless, as wireless can work. And I still have issues with it when I get farther away from the broadcast, but it's not too bad. So if you're in the mood to upgrade your router or that modem that you have, I would, if your modem's working fine, I would stay with it and just upgrade your router. And that's what I always recommend people doing, is buying a little more expensive piece of equipment. It will work better. Like that TP-Link. Now, I'm not saying that like I said, that TP-Link wasn't too bad for the fact that they're not a name brand. But I recommend a wireless router or an access point that has external antennas. Now, most people buy the ones without the antennas on the outside for the fact that they don't know the difference between the external and the internal. And the external antennas, which you can turn, like mine, you can rotate left or right or up or down or back and forth to move your signal around. That you're paying a little bit more money for that feature on your wireless access point or your wireless router. Now, if you're going to get into business routers because you've got too much stuff, you can buy a wireless business router. But I don't recommend buying a wireless business router for the fact that a lot of times the wireless is the thing that's causing the problem out of anything that could go wrong. The one thing that I recommend is, in that wireless access point that I just showed you, is just an access point. It's just an accessory. It's not a router. It can't route requests to different places. It just basically just gives me a wireless access point to my router. And I can plug it anywhere in the house that I need it. The other thing that I recommend is a booster. And some folks don't understand about boosters. That, like this one fella that I looked at his setup, and his router or his modem, yeah, it wasn't even a router, it was just a modem. It was a wireless modem with no antennas on right here on this side of the room, and on the other side of the room he had a 500 square feet building or room. I'm not sure if that's the whole building or if that's just his particular area. He had 500 square feet. Well, on the other end of the building he had a wireless booster. Well, by that point, folks, the signal is weak. You need to boost your signal before it gets weak. So when you are running around with your laptop or tablet or however it is that you're connecting to your wireless network, and you're seeing your signal drop, starting to drop, the bars starting to go down, you should place that booster right when you start noticing that your signal's starting to drop. So you just move it over a little bit where it's strong, and then it will repeat to wherever you want where it's stronger. But typical people that don't understand about that would just put it wherever they think that they should want more service. But you really need to amplify it before it gets weak. So I hope that helps you out with trying to troubleshoot your internet problems or your networking. If you want to know more about QoS, there's other resources that are on the internet that I haven't done. Look up your manufacturer of your router to see how to set it up. A lot of the stuff is quite easy to set up. I set it up, and I really didn't know too much about QoS or how to set up my business router. But I did it on my own with a few tests. I used that speedtest.net, and I was able to clarify, which settings work by doing a speed test and seeing my speed go up or go down. So I hope that helps you folks out to just stay away from the ISP, your internet service provider, until you got confirmation that it's not you. So I hope you subscribe on YouTube. Thank you for watching this video. There are many more good resources on Facebook or the website. Just check out all the resources that I have out there and be educated. And I'll see you the next time on Pushing Technology to the Limit. Have a great day.